Hi, it's attorney Ken Schwartz. It's been quite a while since I posted a video here to my channel. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes today to talk about auto insurance and sort of the things you need to know and be aware of. So a lot of people have no idea what sort of coverage they have when it comes to their auto insurance. I'll ask somebody, for instance, I'll say, how much coverage do you have? And they'll say, well, I have full coverage. And I say, okay, what are your limits? And they don't know what I'm talking about. Many people don't. I've spoken to lawyers that don't even know what this means. So here's the deal. The law in every state requires us to have a certain minimum amount of what's called liability insurance. What's liability insurance? Liability insurance is insurance that will cover you if you cause an accident, causing some damage to somebody's car, causing some injury to them. In Missouri, for instance, the minimum amount of liability coverage required is $25,000. So what does that mean? Well, that essentially means that if you cause an accident and that person is owed more than $25,000, you're just sort of SOL after your insurance company has paid them the $25,000, if that's the way it goes. That person can then choose to go after you for the balance. So if you have some assets, or you have a good job, they could garnish your wages, they could take your bank accounts, they could ruin you. So you really need to buy an appropriate level of liability insurance to protect yourself, to protect your assets. Then there's other types of coverage. There's something we generally refer to as comprehensive coverage. That's the sort of coverage that will take care of damages to the car if you cause the damage. Or let's say a tree falls on your car catches on fire, something like that. With liability only, those sorts of things are not going to be covered. All right. What about uninsured motorist coverage and underinsured motorist coverage? Well, uninsured motorist coverage, a lot of people think, well, that means that if I get hit by somebody who doesn't have insurance, that I get my stuff paid for by that coverage, and that's generally not so. Generally, uninsured motorist coverage only applies to your personal injuries, not damage to your car, for instance, not a rental car, nothing like that. The other thing you need to consider is in Missouri, $25,000 is mandated in uninsured motorist coverage. So if you're driving in Missouri and you have insurance, which we hope everybody does, you've got at least $25,000 of uninsured motorist coverage. What does that mean? Well, let's say you get hit by somebody that doesn't have insurance and you get hurt. Depending on what your claim is worth, you're only going to be able to get up to $25,000. So if you get hurt significantly, you've got a lot of bills, you've gone through a lot of pain, suffering, you've lost wages, you haven't been able to work, that sort of thing. $25,000, quite frankly, is nothing. So this is a reason why you really want to look at that type of coverage and get yourself more, probably at least $100,000 of uninsured motorist coverage. What's underinsured motorist? Well, let's say that you get hit by an individual who has state minimums, $25,000 in liability. And let's say, again, you've got significant injuries. Let's say that you've got a broken back, you've had surgeries, your leg was broken, something pretty bad, and you got a lot of injuries and you've got a lot of damages in terms of wage loss, bills, these sorts of things. And that person only has $25,000 of liability. Well, if you don't have underinsured coverage, then you're just screwed. You're going to collect that $25,000, and if that person has a ton of money, maybe you'll go after them, but usually that's just not the way it plays out, and you're just kind of stuck. You get $25,000 when your injuries are worth, 10, 20, 30 times that, whatever it might be. So you want to have underinsured motorist coverage. Now, underinsured motorist coverage can also be quite tricky in Missouri, depending on the language of your policy. A lot of times, whatever amount of underinsured coverage you have, your policy might give your insurance company sort of a set-off for what you collected from that person who hit you. So let's say the person that hit you had $25,000 and you have $25,000 of underinsured. A lot of policies in Missouri will basically say, well, that's it. You don't have any more underinsured. And nobody thinks it works that way. Why not? Because it shouldn't work that way. That's really unfair. And in my opinion, that's an insurance company taking advantage of the fact that most people don't read the fine print. So what's the lesson there? Read the fine print? You can, although to be really honest with you, I read the fine print in these things, and sometimes it takes me 2, 3, 4 readings to understand it. It's convoluted. It's difficult to understand. A lot of people rely on what their insurance brokers tell them in terms of what they need. And I know insurance brokers who don't even know some of these things that we're talking about right now. A lot of those insurance agents, insurance brokers, whatever you want to call them, they don't even understand this stuff. The best person to talk to is a lawyer who knows something about that area of the law and say, here's my coverage. You can call your insurance company and say, I want a copy of my declaration page. And that's a document, a piece of paper, or it's probably on a computer, that says how much your coverages are, what coverages you have, and how much coverage, how much is the dollar amount that you have available for coverage under those under those types of coverage. Get that, show it to a lawyer. If you want to show it to me, I'm always happy to talk to folks about that. It's usually pretty straightforward in terms of specific interpretation of contractual terms. Sometimes that takes a little longer, but doing an overview of what coverages you have is always a good idea, but you got to do it with somebody who knows what they're talking about. So I appreciate you subscribing to my channel. I appreciate you watching these videos. I hope you find them helpful. Hope you find them useful. If you got to understand though that these discussions that I have, I can't give you specific legal advice, obviously. But if you want to speak with me, I'm happy to talk to you over the phone or in person if that's what you want to do, and I might be able to give you some more specific advice. So until the next video, we're going to sign off, and I appreciate it. Take care.